Hello and welcome to another edition of Business and Financial Raw Talk, a no-holds-barred forum for leaders and innovators. I am LaWanna Bradford with the Bradford Group and the Bradford Group Consulting, where we pair establishing your financial position with mortgages, expanding your financial portfolio, and then integrating it on the consulting side with ensuring that you are positioned to always remain relevant in your life and in your business. We work with both big businesses, government agencies, as well as now we're starting to have that conversation with small businesses because we know that success leaves clues. And that's the one thing I love about Business and Financial Raw Talk is I get the opportunity to go shoulder to shoulder with other leaders in the industry to talk about solutions, tips, strategies to help you expand your vision, expand your horizon, and also to increase your impact, your influence, and your income. And today I have an amazing guest for us on the show. Her name is Carmen Boss Lady Bernard. But before I introduce her, I want to salute our sponsor, Conversations Media Group.
Good Friday, everyone. Your real worth isn't defined by your net worth. What makes you valuable is how you use what you have been given. All of us have gifts. Make sure you're making the most of yours. Have an amazing Friday.
It is now the bottom of the hour. I'm excited to welcome Nancy Matthews to our program today. Nancy is an author of a book. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it in the carousel for you guys. There it is, The One Philosophy. I want to talk to Nancy not only about the re-release of the book, but also what it's been like for her to share the message with all of you guys. Nancy, great to have you on with us.
Hello, hello, hello. So happy to be here.
Well, look who's here. It is Carmen Boss Lady Bernard.
Whoa. Thank you so much, LaWanna, for having me on the show this afternoon. I expect to have a wonderful time, have a great conversation. A little bit about me. My name is Carmen K. Bernard. My husband named me Boss Lady some years before, and it just stuck. And so lots of people refer to me as Boss Lady. About me, I'm a lifelong educator. Worked in the corporate sector for about 15 years as a corporate training consultant, ironically in insurance. And then the next 15 years I spent in the classroom in the public school sector, teaching business education to middle school students. And the last 3 or 4 years, I have been in the financial services industry. I'm a mom. I'm a mom of 3. I'm a grandmother of 7. Also have 2 bonus children. But that's a little bit about me. Why am I doing what I'm doing right now?
Hold on. Let's pause for a minute. So let the audience soak all of this in. So what you heard, and I love the way you nicely package your story, your journey, right? So having obviously a passion for education and understanding business strategy, wealth strategies, you've coupled that to now where you're on a mission to help individuals really empower themselves with understanding where they are financially, where they want to go, how to bridge that gap. And that brings us to the title of this show, which is to build generational wealth, you must overcome the wealth gap. And one of the things about Raw Talk, we do get, for those of you that are joining us for the first time, we do get raw. And this is a conversation that we need to have, especially within the marginalized communities, where we are playing catch up. And it seems like over and over again because of the systems and institutions that were not designed for us. And then when you look at the different economic cycles, 2007, 2008, what happened, and it pushed us back a little further. We start to, build back up. Now we have the pandemic, and we look at those individuals who were hardest hit with the closures of the economy. And now we have the war in the Ukraine that's having all of this economic impact on us. And the world is wondering now what, but especially, again, those marginalized communities. And I want to just pitch it to you, Carmen, to talk about why is this such a passion of yours to help individuals understand that they truly can build generational wealth. But before we get to that, if you could explain what does that mean? Because some people may not know what generational wealth really means.
Well, to me, it's the biggest catchphrase right now. Everyone's saying that they're building generational wealth, but we can't have true generational wealth till it's about maybe the third generation when it's truly generational wealth. It's passed down from you to your children, to your grandchildren, to your great-grandchildren. And to me, that's what generational wealth means. And it's a passion or my mission to help the people in our community to understand that we can have that too. And I'm going to be raw with you for a little bit. I'm glad this is Raw Talk.
Yes.
Because prior to when I started in the financial services industry, I had a different mission. But as I continue to learn and understand and educate myself about just this little phrase, how money works, I realized that we were cheated. We were cheated. And I can say that for a fact because I told you I spent 15 years in a classroom in the public school system. And the things that I have learned in the past 5 years, I should have known so that I could impart that to the thousands of children that pass through my hands. So it really, really made me mad. And I am a woman on a mission to really and truly help us understand how money works so that we can really and truly create generational wealth. And it's not just about money. It's also about education and passing that down.
Exactly. But, when we think about, and I don't want to say a but, I want to say and, when we think about money and generational wealth, what money allows us to do. I think about individuals, what we were faced with and are still facing with. I've seen so many GoFundMe accounts because people did not have life insurance coverage, so they didn't have the means to bury their loved ones. When you're able to have the money and properly set aside for different things, then you don't have to go to the community to say, hey, help me and do fish fries and other things, literally, to be able to pay the proper respects for your loved ones. So it can go from that critical requirement to another critical requirement, just being able to have access and affordable healthcare, right? Because I know, Carmen, with, I'm just blessed with, and I don't say this to be boastful, but I'm blessed to come from a family of means. And when I was growing up, I thought that was normal, that every African-American family grew up like I did because I was in this bubble. it wasn't until I grew up and went to school and got married and moved away, because I grew up in Europe and then lived in Arizona, so it wasn't many of us out there, right? And then, but when I came to Atlanta, I started to realize the struggle and really understand it in a way that was different than what I read in books. And like you said, they're the educators, we need to have individuals who can impart basic knowledge, financial management skills to our children at a very early age so that when they go to college, they're not accepting all these credit cards and end up getting laden with just tremendous debt the moment they walk out the door with their degree, right?
You are absolutely right. And you and I are probably from the two opposite ends of the spectrum. I grew up really, really poor. I grew up in a third world country. Education was valued, but the same as you see here, where some had access and some didn't, right? So I grew up very very meager, I should say, means, very meager means. And so it was instilled in me that I need to get a good education and I need to get a good job. And that's it. That's what was put into me, and that's what I did. And even
Hold on. I want to interrupt you for 1 second because this is funny, and I want you to please continue. You just said the two things: go to school, get a good education, get a good job. You said we're on two different ends of the spectrum. Why is it that our parents gave us the same lesson?
exactly right. Exactly. Because we were bamboozled. That's why. We were bamboozled into thinking, into I don't want to get all political and to that, talk about that slave mentality, but basically it's what it is. If we
Yes.
were groomed to go work for someone else for 40 years, and then hopefully they will take care of us for the rest of our lives. And so yeah, that is somewhat funny, but not funny.
Right. But like you said, okay, so you're in a third world country. I was in a microcosm, so American family, but I grew up in the military community internationally. But those were still the lessons.
Yeah,
Education within our community, it is important because it was denied so much. It was denied
yeah,
of us. So that was like one step of saying yes.
yeah,
I'm on my way.
yes, yes.
Then to be able to assimilate in a job where you're able to be more than the cook and the janitor, right?
Yeah, yes, exactly,
That's what they wanted you to do.
exactly. And like my mom, she in Guyana. I'm from Guyana. That's in South America. Not to be mixed up with Ghana, because a lot of our people mixes it up with Ghana. It's next to Brazil. But in Guyana, my mom worked for, as a cook, or even when we came over here, she came over here with us for young children, and she still had to go to someone's house to clean and cook and take care of them. I became the mom. That's probably why I have that nurturing type of spirit, because while my mom was taking care of other people's children in order to take care of us, I was taking care of my brothers. And but the most important thing to her was that I go to school, finish high school. She didn't get to do that. Go to college, and I went that non-traditional route, got the associate's degree, and then got the bachelor's degree, and then got the master's degree. And you know what we do, right? We
Right.
keep getting another degree, another credential, something to kind of level us up, right? Not even worrying about the other thing that is interfering with generational wealth now, and continues to be so, which is student loan debt. But that's a different story right now. But that we went to school and we accumulated so much debt. And most of us, when we left school, the amount of student loan that we left school with, 10 years later, we owed more than than when we walked out that door. Right?
Yeah. And you know, and I think about your mom, your parents, my parents, and just, our grands, everyone whose shoulders we stand on. I mean, they sacrificed in order for us to have, no matter what side of the equation you were in. Like my father is 91 and my mom is 86. And so when you think about what that generation saw and what they had to just be silent and endure, so my brother and I could have, I don't think I could do what they did.
I knew I couldn't do it. I know right now that I couldn't do it. I really do. I am proud of my mom, though. My mom is 85. She turned 85 about a month ago. And she was able to go to school and get a CNA, certified nursing assistant, a certificate and things like that. So I know that it was important. Education was also important to her, although it was denied or she didn't have the access to it when she was younger. But she was still able to do that when she was in her 40s and 50s and be able to go and do that. But, just to get back to our conversation, it makes me so mad that we do not teach these things. We're teaching kids in this system to become employees, and that college education is the only way to do that. Right? I saw a meme the other day. This was kind of funny. I saw a meme the other day, and it said, the teacher told me that I was going to grow up to be a garbage man, but she didn't tell me that I would be making more money than she was.
Yes, that is true.
But I think that what has happened is that education has changed, right? People can succeed in different ways. Everyone does not have to go to college, right? Exactly. If you asked me this 30 years ago, I would have given you a different answer, because I was still bought in to, you are going to go to college and you're going to go to the best college you can go to as well, right? Because the more money we spend, the better your education is going to be. Right?
Yeah, that's true. And, I was thinking about, like how you said, you're using certain words. And so to our audience, we're here with Carmen Bernard, who is a wealth strategist and educator. And her mission is to help us to understand how generational wealth is possible. But we first have to identify that there is a wealth gap, and how do we hurdle over it. And so we're just having this raw conversation right now. And one of the things that I was thinking about when you were talking is buying into, right? Being conditioned. So we hear all the time about mindset, and I'm not knocking it. The wealth mindset coaches, they have a place, but we have to get down to, when we're talking about our communities, the root of those mindsets, and how some of the limiting beliefs that are there are systemic in nature, based upon all the impressions, all the hurt, all the anguish, all the suffering that we've endured generation after generation after generation. So it's not just saying, oh, I will myself to be wealthy. You got to get over all of the hurt and be able to forgive that and release it. Yeah. And then embrace what is intended for your future. But it's a journey. That's not always so easy. Yeah. And today, even though slavery in the institutional word of slavery in the U.S. is gone away, corporate slavery is not.
No.
There is still bondage. There is still limitations. There is still hiring hierarchies that we get in the door, but then our ceiling is so much lower than everyone else's. Right?
Yes. Yes, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely correct. And in order for us, this is one of the hurdles that we have to get over in order to be able to achieve quote unquote generational wealth. We have to be able to get over it. And part of the reason why it's so hard is because we've been miseducated, right? We have to unlearn. We have to unlearn. Then we have to relearn in order to be able to move forward. And there's so many barriers that is affecting that because we've been conditioned for so long to think certain ways, right? For instance, even now as we are finding ways to get money, to get wealth, right? We are equating things like the cars we drive or the belt we're wearing, those kind of things, those kind of symbols is what we are equating with wealth. And that's how we are measuring ourselves, by the cars we drive, by the belts we're wearing, by where we're eating, by who can pay the most for when we go out to dinner, who can drop the most money. You know, I heard one well-known millionaire said once before, like, if you cannot afford to pay the bill at the table, then you can't sit with me. Well, what kind of attitude is that? And how do we help others, right? How do we help others to understand how you got to where you got when you are limiting people, right? Yes. We have to learn to value ourselves differently, to value ourselves not based on these symbols, right? We have to learn to value ourselves the way the corporations value us, right? So, for example, if you are making $50,000 a year and you are going to work for the next 20 or 30 years, you're a walking millionaire asset to that corporation. And we have to start valuing ourselves like that rather than by the car that we're driving.
Yeah, you're right. And again, I think so much of that when you're thinking about the generational impressions, if you go back to, just 100 years when so many things were denied, that the things, the bling, the whatever it's in the community. Unfortunately, it is symbolic of arrival. Even though we know when we go home, we're trying to figure out how to rob Peter to pay Paul. But at least when we present ourselves to the world, it looks like I got it all together, right?
Right. Exactly. And so those are the things that we have to break. And that's one of the reasons that the people that I try to reach out to are the millennials and the who are the Generation X and Y and Z. Those are the people because they are the future. They also have that asset called time. And so those are the people that I want to reach to try to break some of those awful status quos, so that we can really teach them what to do, right? And if they are doing that, when their children are 18 years old and they're now going off to school, they will not be, because they've been educated and they understand how money works, they're not going to be the ones that's rushing to complete all the credit card offers that they're offering them. They're not going to be the ones that have to get a loan in order to get their first car. They're not going to be the ones that have to get a loan just to afford the books, just to get the books. And that's the problem in our community. Our kids are starting on behind, whereas other communities, their children do not have to worry about this. And I'm not saying that that is 100%, but
Right. Yeah, the norm. Yes.
right. But the fact is that we have been our kids have to worry about things or go into debt for things that others do not necessarily need to do. And how do we fix that? Right? And that's where I come in. Like, how do we fix that? I wanted a me 30, 40 years ago for me. Right?
No, I love that both you and I, we're on this financial journey together, similar messages, and you're focused on, like you said, the millennials, the Gen Zs, those that are coming up, the new guard, right? And I'm focused on the boomers and the Gen Xers, because these are individuals who are, if they're not in retirement, they're about to approach retirement.
Right.
And we know specifically women, at some time in their life, they are going to be responsible for managing their own finances, whether it's through choice, death, or divorce. And most women really, they don't understand money. The literacy rate among women is pretty frightening. And when you look at women of color, the picture is even more grim. And then when you pair that with the gap, right, the wage gap, I don't know about you, Carmen, but I'm a little tired of just hearing, well, women earn 80 cents on the dollar. No, white women earn 80 cents on the dollar. Black women earn 60 cents. Hispanic women 50 cents. Let's talk. Let's have that conversation.
Let's talk the real numbers, right?
Right.
Let's talk the real numbers. And then the all of the other things that we go through, because women are the ones who are typically the ones to stay home to take care of the children. So we lose money from that. We lose our earning power during those years. We are typically the ones that have to stay home to take care of the elder parents. And so we lose from that as well. Then we live longer and the men dies and they're gone. The men died and they're gone and they did not leave adequate. So it is really a women's issue when you talk about some of these things. It's really, really, really important. And I am I'm the last of the baby boomers. I'm the last of the baby boomers, and I do care about us as well. But I care more about the future. I care about my children. And that's part of the reason why I go so hard for that generation, But yeah, you're right. We do need to also focus on women. We definitely need to focus on Black women. And we definitely need to focus on the boomers and the other older generation because they're, like you said, they're either in retirement or ready to retire, right?
Yes. Right. And then that retirement, it's like, what is it really? And I challenge those of you that are watching this, do your homework, find out, what are women on average, women of color, making in retirement. It's actually less than $20,000 a year. $20,000 a year. Why? Because they're not getting a pension. They probably invested little to nothing, and they're totally reliant on Social Security.
Yes.
So when you're looking at less than 20,000, as we get older, the rising costs of healthcare needs, inflation, how do you live on that?
Right.
And we have to have those conversations. And I love that you are preparing the younger generation to say, okay, you don't want to be like this over here. Let's get you ready. But I'm talking to the older generation to say, why do you want to burden your children?
Right.
Let's start trying to get our house in order. It's never too late to start. But the worst thing is to just sit and hope things will somehow magically come together. Hope I win the lottery. Hope I marry Prince Charming, who's a millionaire. We've got to take control of our own financial well-being.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Most of the those women retire with about maybe 60. The average, I think, is $60,000 in savings, and that, just think about it, that's gone in no time. Especially if they haven't adjusted their lifestyle, you know. And the the thing was that by the time we were older, our children would be grown, so we wouldn't have those expenses. Our house should be paid off, and that's definitely a fallacy, because instead of a 30-year mortgage, we have a series of 10 like 3-year mortgages. We keep refinancing and refinancing and refinancing them. So we're going into our retirement with not only the mortgage, but also the student loan, which is as high as the mortgage. I'm talking to 64-year-olds. Now, don't get me wrong that I don't service those people as well. But I have clients that are 64-year-olds that are scared to death because they, number one, did not understand how Medicare and Social Security works. They didn't understand that, right? And even the ones who are lucky to have a pension or the 401ks is a little bit new, but even them, they are now realizing that once they're drawing money from number one, the first thing that hits them is the fact that they are really not a 60,000-aire. They're probably more like a 30,000-aire because of taxes.
Right. If they didn't prepare on the front end, right?
Right. Because what did they tell us, right? They told us to max out our 401ks, and not that that's
the taxes.
Right. We didn't talk about that. They tell you you're going to save on taxes now, right? And the thing about that is that, I don't bash people putting money in 401ks. There are some people that need to max out their 401ks. Why? They cannot manage anything else. So at least they would have saved something for later. But if we can get people to understand how that 401k really works, and especially when times like now and back in 2008, where your 401k becomes a 201k, we have to understand that 201k is now going to become a half a K when you have to pay the taxes back on that. So I want to be able to make sure that people understand what to do, whereas it's probably better to pay taxes now up front rather than waiting. It's almost like that farmer story. Would you rather to pay taxes on the seed or on the harvest, right? Would you rather to pay taxes on a dime for the seed, or after you've harvested and now $2, do you want to pay taxes on that? So that's part of understanding how this all works, right? That understanding that Medicare does not pay for long-term care, and so many of us do not have any plan for long-term care. And I don't want to scare people. I don't want to be giving out all the bad news. There are things that we can do.
Yes.
But
we have to have the conversations. And I think by us burying our heads in the sand, thinking things will just miraculously be okay, we're doing ourselves a disservice. And I always tell individuals that if we are in the financial industry and we have the knowledge, I believe we have a fiduciary responsibility to share and to educate. It's important, right? Mm-hmm. Because imagine if when we were going to high school, like I said, even with my parents, great. But my parents knew what they knew. But for whatever reason, they didn't pass it on to us, to me and my brother. They just told us, go to school, get a good education. Right? But they never talked to us about their investments, how they invested, how they went into retirement fully debt-free, how my father retired at 60 and has lived retirement in a retirement lifestyle for 31 years. Can you
Imagine
imagine
such a
having
number.
31 years of income?
Wow.
And they did, and their lifestyle did not dip. But that wasn't a conversation we had. Why? Because they're the generation you don't discuss money.
That's right. That is absolutely right. That's absolutely right. And that was a disservice that was done. But hopefully, like you guys grew up and you not only from a lot of times you don't necessarily always have to learn from verbal conversation. You see, that's how children pick up bad habits, bad money habits, and things like that. They might not have been talking about it, but people are seeing it, right? And I'm
Right.
gonna say for myself, yes, because I'm part of that generation. The people that were born in the '60s that children that thought that children were to be seen and not heard, and that we don't discuss money with them because that's not important. I've totally changed on that. Totally. You know, but I see that my children now I'm a lot more vocal and I can speak with them and like you said, it's never too late to start. But I know that they were able to kind of look at certain things, maybe ask some questions and garner some things, right? For instance, my sons, both of them, bought a home. They moved from my house and bought a home instead of paying rent. Right now, that there are people on different schools of thought for when it comes to things like that, but they saw that their parents lived in a home. I also did have a little bit of fortitude to talk to them about that, about
Right.
paying for something that's your own rather than paying rent, right? So,
I have a question for you. So,
yeah.
for those who may be watching and thinking, "Oh my gosh, I didn't do the right thing. I'm not ready to retire. I don't know how long I'm going to have to work. My 401k, I'm scared to look at it because the market is just all over the map." What three things, based upon your knowledge and your experience, can you share with our listening audience?
So, the one of the first things is to kind of establish a financial foundation, regardless of what has happened. The very first thing is listening to things like this, reading. It's getting a financial education. You're not too old to do that. So that's the first thing, so that you can have an understanding of what you need to do. Speak to a financial professional. It's very hard sometimes because you don't want to share you might be ashamed to say I've done this and I've done that. But you know what? I've been there, right? I was the lady who emptied her 401k to buy a house, right? Because I did not know any better. But guess what? You can come back from that depending on what age you are and things like that, right? So, depending on what age you're, maybe it's too late now to decide to buy a home, but making sure that whatever income you have right now that it's protected, because if something happens to you, then what happens if the income stops? What happens, right? And the best way to protect your income is with life insurance, right? And we have to get rid of that thought. We always thought that life insurance is meant for death. It is not. We There are so we that was instilled in us, right, to get this burial policy. No one that's 30, 40, 50 years, 60 years old that's especially healthy needs to have a burial policy, you know so we want to get something that will help to protect our income, and at the same time protect us if we were not just from death or premature death, but also protect us if we were ill, if we suffered a chronic illness and we are unable to feed ourselves, clothe ourselves, or whether it's for a couple of years or whether it's for the rest of our lives, we want to have something that's going to protect us from that. And then if we live too long, we want to be able to use that money for retirement. And we can do all of that with life insurance. So first, getting an education. Second, uh, financial foundation, which means get life insurance, get the right type of life insurance, right? I sit down with people and help them to structure life insurance. It's different. You may end up having to do three policies in order to be able to do that. But that's the next thing. Your life insurance also can help you with your emergency funds, right? You want to make sure that you have some emergency funds. But if you are making $50,000 a year, in 6 months of savings is 25,000. Why would you have $25,000 in a bank that's giving you 0.25% interest? Right? So $25,000 does not need to be there. We need to be able to put it in a vehicle where it's going to be working for us. So your life insurance could be, your life insurance could protect you with your emergency funds. You can even use that money to invest. You can use that money to reduce debt. So that's the next thing to do. And then my mom used to say, you can't pull blood from a stone. So sometimes you might have to do something else. You might have to get a side gig. You might have to, I wouldn't say go ahead and trade time for dollars, but start a little business. Every Black person should own a business. I'm not saying work in the business, but they need to own a business. 10% of a business is better than 100% of zero business.
Yes. And that was one of the quotes of Henry Ford that well, he was talking about leveraging manpower, leveraging the efforts of others. And that's the other thing, is we really need to understand the art of leverage. So if I'm trading my time for dollar, then I only have 24 hours in a day.
Right.
But if I'm able to create leverage through other income streams, or my money is making money while I'm asleep.
Right.
Right. That's the good thing. Now, I do have one question for you before I take myself down, and I want to give you 5 minutes just to speak independently with our viewing audience. So with life insurance, what do you say to individuals? Okay, especially now we're in the pandemic and we have these pre-existing conditions that they're now discovering because of COVID. And so what can someone do who may have a pre-existing condition? Does that mean the life insurance, as far as the living benefit, is that now off limits? It's only for those who are healthy?
So that's a great question. And it just depends on each and everyone's situation. So for instance, if we have someone that is uninsurable, right? There's some other things you can look into, what it's doing an annuity, whether you have some 401ks that you want to roll into an annuity that will help to still give you lifetime income, because that's the only thing that can protect you and give you lifetime income. And then if you die too soon, the money still goes to your beneficiaries, right? You also have the ability to, when we're talking about high cash value mutual whole life policies that's done with a dividend paying whole life company, you are able to maybe have the insurance on to be able to grow the money to do the things that you still need to do on an insurable interest. No, maybe a child, an adult child, or a grandchild, or something like that. So you're still the owner of the policy and you have control of the money, right? So that's another thing to do. There's also some other vehicles, like you might be uninsurable, but we might have a spouse that we were able to put the insurance on. And so there are ways to still get around and protect us from living too long or dying too soon. We still have some ways to do that.
And listening to what you're saying, I think you're just emphasizing also the importance. We can't know everything, and sometimes we're not even going to know what to ask. And by surrounding ourselves with those professionals, having your accountant, having your banker, having your insurance provider, having your broker, I mean, the list goes on, financial planners, all of these come with different knowledges and skill sets that collectively can help insulate you so that you're living the life that you want. And I loved what you said, being able to protect that money. as much as possible. Because when we think about the wealthy, why is it that no matter what's happening with the economy, the wealthy seem to get richer and the poor get poorer? So
Yeah,
success leaves clues. There are principles that they're
right.
applying over and over and over again. And so I think we can pick up some of those lessons and apply it to our lives, right?
Exactly. And if you don't believe what LaWanna just said, Google it, right? Look and see how much richer Jeff Bezos got during the pandemic. See how much richer he got. And that's part of the reason why I said the first thing that we have to do is to educate ourselves, right? It is not too late to, and I still have to educate myself. I still read a whole lot. My husband said to me, he said, you are in this, I am trying to wind down and retire. And here you are starting a whole new life. I didn't say this, but I'm a retired school teacher. But this allows me to continue to just do the thing that I love, which is to educate people. You know, I have one of the best lives as I sit back and I see my students that are doing great. And I say to myself, I don't know if all of them will agree, but I know that I had a hand in something with getting them to where they were. And I taught business, and none of this is there. None of this is there, right? Even to something like as easy as like the rule of 72, right? We might have taught children the rule of 72. You might have learned it in college, but you really, really and truly didn't. You took it, you got it in an intellectual way, but not being able to apply it to your own life. And that's what my second life, as my husband says, is what I am doing with it. And I'm going to keep going because I just love it.
Well, Carmen, we are almost out of time. I'm going to give you about 3 minutes. I'm going to take myself down, and feel free to share with the audience anything that you'd like, any lasting tips for them moving forward.
Awesome. Well, I want to say thank you so much for having me on this platform today. I hope that you, the listening audience, have taken something away from this conversation. Making sure that you educate yourself on how money works, making sure that you understand how to make money work for you. There's so much going on, whether it's on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. People are sharing information. Listen to all of them and then evaluate what you are hearing. Meet with someone that is able to help you to weed through what is quote unquote BS and what isn't, and be able to get to financial stability. So number one, get a financial education. Number two, get life insurance to protect your income, to protect if you become ill, to protect if you live too long. Use that to help you to safeguard your emergency funds. Use that to help you to eliminate debt. That's something else that we weren't taught that we are able to do with life insurance. Use that to be able to ensure that your children or grandchildren do not have to start with a foot in the ground. They're able to be able to be on par or close to par with other generations, so they don't have to go into debt for necessities such as an education, such as a wedding, such as a home, such as a first car, and things like that. Get yourself a business, get yourself a side gig, figure out what you can do to help you to earn some more money. You don't want another W-2. And businesses help you with taxes. I have already talked a little bit about how you're going to be affected when it comes to pulling out your 401ks and things like that. And last but not least, make sure that you have an estate plan. Not just a will, A will is good, but make sure you have an estate plan. And an estate plan is not only for the wealthy. It's an estate plan is for everyone. With that, I want to say thank you. I can be reached at carmen10k.com. I'd love to have a conversation with you. I've made mistakes. I am still learning, but we can learn together. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Carmen. I really appreciate having you on. So if you want information about how you can understand more about life insurance, as she said, it's more than just death benefits, but how can you use it for you today? Because life can happen, those unexpected things, illness, injury, death, the worst. But are you ready? Are you protecting yourself? Are you protecting your family? And with me, I just want you to also reach out and contact me for a complimentary 20-minute business consult. As Carmen said, if you're thinking about having a business, looking at a side gig, how do you become a gig worker, and understanding the benefits and the structure of that, identifying your clients, positioning yourself where you always remain relevant, that your income isn't by chance, but it's by plan, strategy, and intention. Reach out to me. Carmen and I are here to help you be the best that you can be in life and in business. And I want to show those tips again: getting that financial education, protecting your income with life insurance, creating the income that you need for your retirement with that side gig. And the fourth thing that she mentioned was having understanding and developing your estate plan.
Exactly. We're on our way. I call life insurance love insurance. Also, last but not least, if someone wanted to know how to get into the financial services business in Atlanta, we are having a meeting on Thursday tonight at the JW Marriott Hotel in Buckhead. Please reach out to me regarding that as well. And you can also help us, because we need a lot of people to help our community.
I love that. Well, before we close out, I'm going to close with our last sponsor, which is Help Heal Humanity. And this is a nonprofit that is reaching out to help improve the lives of the young generation in Haiti. And then we're going to close out. But I want you to just remember that in life and in business, when your vision intersects with opportunity, success is inevitable. Until next time, there's Help Heal Humanity. Thank you, Carmen.
Thank you, LaWanna.
For the past 5 years, Help Heal Humanity has successfully run an elementary school in Canaan, Haiti. Due to COVID-19, the political unrest, and the recent earthquakes, food is scarce. The students attending our program are coming to school starving, and therefore causing a disruption in their academic goals. We need your help, now more than ever, to provide these students with the nourishment they need to continue their education. Our goal is to raise $100,000 so we can feed 100 kids lunch daily and send them to school in the upcoming year. Thank you for your support.